Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Herrera with our classwork review from 319. Again, that's page 285. What I'd like you to first do is read the explain number 2 for A. And what we're doing is we're comparing properties of linear functions given a graph as well as a verbal description. So A talks about a rainstorm and looking at the endpoints, and we're talking about calculating the slope given a graph. And they also talk about the range. So read that first. And then when you go to B, B says, one group of hikers hiked at a steady rate of 6.5 kilometers per hour for 4 hours. The function f of t represents the distance this group of hikers hiked in t hours. So again, we're doing part B right here. Write a rule for each function. So f of t is equal to 6.5t. Why? There's my slope times t, the number of hours. And that will give me the total distance. So f of t is the distance traveled in t hours. And what is our time? Our time can be between 0 and 4 hours. So that's our domain. Our domain is between 0 and 4 hours. Then they give us a graph. And again, I've done a quick view of it right there. The graph shows g of t with endpoints at 0, 0. And that's this endpoint, and the other endpoint up here corresponds to when x is 4.5, t is 4.5 hours, and the total distance after 4.5 hours is 36 kilometers. So how do we figure out what their slope is? The slope is always the change in y over the change in x. So we do 36, the endpoint minus the beginning. 36 minus 0 is 36. 4.5 minus 0 is just 4.5. And you can do that in a calculator or on paper. So I have 36 divided by 4.5 gives me 8. And so if we put in the units, that's 8 kilometers every 1 hour for g of t. The y-intercept is 0, and again, we can see that right here. And so substituting in 8 for the m, which is our slope, and 0 for b, will give us the equation y equals 8 times x. When we change that into g of t or function notation, we find out that g of t is 8 times t. And what is our domain? We are allowed to go between 0 and 4.5 hours. So again, t is greater than or equal to 0, but less than or equal to 4.5. The domain of each function begins at 0. That's for both of them, f of t and g of t. But they end at different values for t. And you can go ahead and write in f of t ends at 4, and g of t ends at 4.5. And I wrote that down here just for clarification. The range for f of t is greater than or equal to 0, but less than or equal to 26. Where does that 26 come from? If you go back up here and you say 6.5 times 4, well, 4 times 6 is 24, and 50 cents 4 times is 2, so I get 24 plus 2 is 26. And again, so that's my range for the first function, f of t. f of t goes between 0 and 26. Now, what about g of t? What is that range? Well, g of t starts at time 0. G of t, the range starts at 0 kilometers and ends at 36. That's the most distance that I can go, given the 4.5 domain. So g of t has a slope that's greater than f of t, and both y-intercepts are at 0. I hope that's explained the lesson for you. Again, self-check and please submit when you're done. Have a great day, guys.